Hello everyone, Shinto Bean here, playing some more Warhammer combat cards. In this video I will attempt to talk about every single trait in the game. Currently I believe there are 17 different traits, and I heard that the developers are aiming for a total of 20 traits. So those traits will be coming out in future seasons of ranked mode. But for now there are 17, and in order to talk about these, I split them into two categories. I made decks where every card has a different trait in there. So this deck here is led by Gosar, and every unit in this deck has what I'm calling a permanent trait. So these are traits that the effect lasts as long as the unit is deployed. So starting with the Warlord Gosar, he has Inspiring Presence, and I have it at the level 2 version, but at level 1, this unit increases the all attack stats of your deployed units by 10% at level 1. So it's kind of an aura that just boosts up the attack damage of your units. And that lasts as long as it is on the field. Alright, moving on, we have Regeneration. Pretty self-explanatory. This thing heals itself at the end of every turn, both your turn and the opponent's turn. And at level 1, Regeneration just increases its health by +5 at the end of each turn. That can actually go above its normal maximum health also, so it can gain health indefinitely if given the opportunity. The opposite of Regeneration is Poison, and Poison in its current form, basically the unit is poisonous, and when it deals damage to an enemy card with an attack, it poisons the enemy, and that poisoned enemy will then lose 5 health at the end of every turn, both yours and your opponent's. So one unit with poison can poison multiple enemies if it is able to attack different enemies. Okay. Moving down the line, we have Psychic Link. This basically just increases the psychic damage, and it is percentage based. At level 1, it boosts its psychic attack by 15% for every other psyker you have on the field. So it's most effective when you have 3 psykers on the field. And yeah, it just increases the damage of that unit itself. Alright, we've got Fear here. Fear in its current version basically just makes the unit tougher, more difficult to kill. The card opposite of this unit will be Afraid, and all of its attack stats will be reduced by 20%. And next up we have Berserk. This causes the unit to become enraged each time it takes damage. So every time it takes damage from any source, it gains +4 to all of its attack stats. This particular unit only has a melee attack, but if it were to have multiple attacks, all of those attack types would be increased by +4 every time it takes damage. And this is particularly powerful if the unit is poisoned, so it will be taking small amounts of damage every turn, and each time it takes damage it will gain extra attack power. And then finally, for the permanent traits, we have Big Game Hunter. This is also, well, it's very simple, straightforward trait. If the enemy card costs 40 or more points, this thing will gain a boost to its attack power, 25%. So it's pretty situational, but can be pretty powerful in the right situation. So that's it for the permanent type traits. Now moving on to the one-time traits. We've got Magos Dominus here. Alright, and let's see if we can zoom in here a little bit. Alright, so Magos Dominus, his trait is Medicae. So when he is deployed, it immediately friendly units on the field by 10% of their starting health. So that's 10% of their maximum health, not the current health that they have at the time. So just a one-time healing ability. Next up we have Shield. When the card is deployed, it gains a shield which prevents all of the damage from the next attack that the unit is hit by. Now this only applies to direct attacks from enemy cards. It doesn't prevent damage from, for example, enemy warlord special rules that deal damage, or from poison. Just attacks. And once it absorbs the attack, the shield then dissipates. Next up, oh, that is actually wrong. This trait actually got changed. So it's not Big Game Hunter, which we talked about earlier. It should be Outflank. Now, do we have a card that has Outflank among Servants of the Emperor? Well, that is unfortunate. Oh, okay. Yeah, we do. The Dominator. Alright, this deck is now illegal. Too many points, but we can still talk about it. So, Outflank, it's kind of hard to describe, but just reading the text, when deployed, it steals 10% of all 3 of your opponent's attack boosts and adds them to yours. So basically, it just reduces the enemy's next attack by a little bit while increasing yours. Okay. Next up, we've got... Okay, I'm just lost track of where I was. Alright, Taunt. So with Taunt, when the card is deployed, it starts taunting the enemy. So for the next turn, all enemy units will be attacking this card. And the damage it takes from those attacks is reduced by 10%. So it can be used to protect other cards of yours. The opposite of Taunt is over here. Some of these assassins have this trait, which was just recently added to the game. It's called Target Acquired. Basically, so when the unit is deployed, it targets the enemy card opposite, and then all of your units will be forced to attack that one. So it's kind of the opposite of Taunt, but it's a little bit tricky to use. In all honesty, I've tried it a number of times, and yeah, getting it to target the right thing can be a tricky thing to do effectively. Alright, moving down the line, we got Scout. So when the card is deployed, it readies one time. And again, readying will, I believe in all cases, for the Scout anyway, it will just buff the attack type. So for example, this dog here, when he's deployed, he will buff your melee attack by around 20% or so. And some warlords do have special rules that synergize with Scout, with readying specifically. So, but Scout also has an effect on that as well. Okay, moving on, we got Endless. So when this card is destroyed for the first time, it will resurrect with a percentage of its health. When the trait is at level 1, it just comes back to life with 30% of its health. And I noticed that they called it health here instead of wounds. Interesting. But yeah, so that's Endless. And then I believe the only thing we have left to talk about are the attack traits. So for ranged units, Precision Shot. When the card is deployed, at the start of the turn, it attacks for 25% of its ranged damage. So this does count as an attack, so a shield will block that damage. but in turn it's actually good for taking out shields. Yeah, so precision shot, and then the melee version of that is called Furious Charge, but it functions in the exact same way, except it uses the melee stat. And then there's also a psychic version, if I can find it down here somewhere. Here we go. So this guy has Warp Surge. This is the psychic version, so when deployed it immediately attacks with psychic damage. So yeah, I think I covered every trait there, just very briefly. Again, there's 17 traits in the game, and yeah, just finding out. It's pretty fun, just playing around and trying to include multiple traits. Usually, it's good to have a mix of sorts, but some warlords synergize better with certain traits than others. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions or if I didn't really explain any of these traits quite well enough. Yeah, let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.